Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Manufacturing Alliance podcast. As always, I'm your host, Tony Demakis. And this episode is once again sponsored by Alliance Specialties and Laser Sales, your home of all things mold making and not building molds. So polishing, laser welding, laser engraving, hot runner repair, mold maintenance, and we also make and sell laser welding equipment here in the United States. We don't want to bring it in from overseas and assemble it. We want to build it so that we have all the parts you need. We have all the engineering you need. If there's ever a question, you don't get somebody with a clipboard trying to answer your questions. You have the actual engineering team that built the machine working through it with you. And that's us in a nutshell. We don't actually have any big things to talk about in the introduction today, do we? Yeah, we have the AMBA conference coming up. That is May 10th through the 12th. I should have known that, but I didn't prepare. We were having lunch. So there's that. But we are doing something awesome at the AMBA conference. We are doing another E210 event the first night of the AMBA conference. So details on that will be coming out soon. We are wrapping them up with the people out in Grand Rapids, but we will be doing some sort of charity event. It will be from probably 5 o'clock till 6-ish in that range. And then we will go and have a celebration of the opening ceremonies and all that good stuff at AMBA. But first, let's come together, let's serve, let's do something together and build a relationship that way. We have a golf outing coming up in September, but we'll get to that later. You can go on and register. Maybe Vanessa will put a link somewhere at some time. We'll get there. That's fine. She's laughing at me already. It's great. This is a live show. Sorry that we're late. We were at lunch. Lunch went long. It's not our fault. But if you have any questions, comments, opinions, thoughts, while we're having conversations, please put those in the chat, and we will be sure to answer them. That way you can be part of the conversation as it's going on, not afterwards go, you know what, I wonder what they were talking about on this particular thing. I wish I could ask. Now you can ask. You can also just put your name in the chat and say what company you're from, and we'll give you a shout out. I mean, one of the things that Rebecca and I were talking about was the need for marketing and sales, right? And there's no easier way than this. You just type your name and we're going to talk about it. So without further ado, we are going to kick into our show. I am here with Rebecca Ohser. I got that right?
Yes.
Yes. I did not confuse the SH. So that's good. I'm proud of myself on that one. And you are from Mantz Automation, correct?
Yes, I am.
All right. So give us a brief rundown of who Mantz is.
So Mantz is an injection molding building company. So we build injection molds primarily, but we also have a contract machining division where we use our 5-axis services to service your machining needs. So we build anywhere from mud units to mold size of 1,500 to 1,800 press tonnage size.
Okay.
In-house, we offer full service, so design, engineering, the manufacturing through CNC department, tool making, in-house grinding, wire EDM, carbon EDM, carbon manufacturing, all in-house. So
a nice full one-stop shop.
Yes, and our large size definitely helps. So like I said, we go up to that 1,500 to 1,800 press ton size. And then our contract machining division, we utilize our spindles as we have a large 5-axis presence, which helps to do like weldments and other 1-off to 5-off lower end production. You know, you need something machined one time. It's not a large production run, and we service that. So our size window is that of like a small car. So
okay.
We definitely have a size there.
Yeah, when we were talking at lunch, I was asking like, what kind of tools do you guys build? Like, what is it for? And you were like, I don't know. Simple tools, right? What did you say? Like,
so we were actually discussing how to politely say that. So we don't do like low tolerance or high tolerance, large cavitation tooling. Right. We specialize in like the packaging industry or the appliance industry, larger stuff with maybe thin wall capabilities and of that kind of nature.
Buckets.
So, yep, buckets.
And things like that.
Yeah.
We were talking about how you could say, you know, those really, really, really tight tolerance, high cavitation tools for like medical parts, like something that goes in your eye?
We don't do
Not that. Like
No.
the opposite of that is what we want to specialize in.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's good because there's a need for that also. Do you guys also offer sampling to people that need sampling?
So we have our in-house press sample department. I should have mentioned
Yep.
that before, where we have press tonnage ranging from like 250 to 1100. So we sample everything that we build. We also offer that with like our repair services.
Yeah.
So mold repairs, we can sample that all in house. And then we've got about 6 or 7 presses now that range from that smaller size to the larger size. And one of our larger presses, the 1100 ton, has a high speed injection unit, which actually helps for like packaging and thin wall processing. So it's a larger shot size, faster to better process all that.
You got it all
we do
out.
offer that, yeah.
And you were nervous about that. Got it all. That's the hard part, is memorizing that part. Casey is with us. Casey Foreman from Casey Foreman Molded Dimensions. Thanks for stopping in and saying hello.
Thank you.
If you have any questions, thoughts, comments, something that you want to hear about, we have some ideas about what we want to talk about. But if you have some ideas about what you want to hear about, that's always better than us trying to figure out what everybody else wants to talk about, right? So how did you get into this industry?
So I grew up on a farm, so I always did hands-on
What kind of farm?
applications. A dairy farm, and then
Okay.
we transitioned to beef cattle, and then my grandparents transitioned out of it.
What's the difference between dairy cattle and beef cattle?
So in dairy, we are milking and
Well, yes.
producing milk, and beef is meat process. So we raise them for butcher, for
Okay.
eating.
But do you not? I'm sorry if this is stupid, but these are the questions I always wanted to know. Do you not milk the beef cattle?
No.
Why?
We're feeding them differently. They're raised to be big and bulky, and dairy cattle are built to not bulk up meat wise. They're more, for breeding and that kind of thing. So yeah, we just raise them to be healthy, good quality meat.
Vanessa, did you know that? Did you know there was difference? I didn't know there was a difference. I thought like cattle farm was a cattle farm.
This is the best way to just like loosely describe it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I'm sure there's way more differences, but that's fine for me. That's plenty good for me. Okay, so you grew up on a farm.
I grew up on a farm, and I currently work actually at the Meyer farm.
Okay.
It's in Slinger, and I do that after work every day. I like the animals, and I like the activity it provides me. Just getting out and stretching my legs versus doing sales all day, a lot of driving around, sitting at a desk. So I do that. But I was, doing the farm thing, and I was always hands-on. And then in high school, I did all the shop classes, and I really thought I was going to be a welder. But I realized after doing that for a couple of years that it's more of a job than a career for me.
Okay.
So I transitioned to doing mechanical design through technical college, and somebody there connected me with Mantz. So I kind of just took the route of tool and die designer.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough to get the job at Mantz, where they said, hey, you probably should work on the floor first. It'll make you a better designer, which was fine because I had always worked in the welding shop. So I started there and worked in the toolmaker area, the CNC department, design department, even a little bit of polishing. And
which you said you loved.
I think that it takes a special type of person and skill, but not for me. So,
no, it really does. You have to be able to focus on that task and just be able to not be distracted by everything around you or want to have conversations. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can talk a lot to yourself in your head, but and people just think you're crazy.
I feel a little more accomplished when I'm moving around doing something versus one place. And I know taking something from no polish to a high polish is crazy, but I couldn't do that all day.
No, it's a crazy skill set. I mean, we're really fortunate to have 10 guys here. I was
going to say, you guys,
they sit and they polish all day, every day. And they take great pride in it, and they do amazing job. It's artwork. It's brilliant when they're done. But I did that in high school. It was not successful. I think I wish we would have had a laser welding department when I was welding or when I was polishing. Kirby saved me a lot of times. Thanks, Kirby.
But yeah, so that's how I got into the trades. And then I transitioned after some years just doing design and kind of program management and a couple other smaller shops back to Mantz as sales. So knowing a lot about, a good deep surface level of all the different areas that we do business in and services that we offer definitely helps me with sales, answering questions. And it's like more of a technical sales thing. So
Yeah.
that definitely helps.
So which side do you like better? Do you like the on the shop floor doing the engineering side, or do you like sales going out and seeing people and shaking hands, kissing babies, that kind of thing?
So no kissing babies.
No? All right.
But I think I like the new, different, everyday to day with sales
Sure.
and meeting people and, interacting with people like yourself, getting these kind of opportunities. But part of me does miss working on the floor. I felt like I accomplished something at the end of the day. And some days with sales, it just doesn't feel like I have anything I checked off my list.
Yeah, I can see
So,
that.
yeah.
Michelle will talk about that all the time, especially when she was first starting, how she would say, like, I feel like I did nothing. Like, can I go pick up dry cleaning? Can I go do something that I can like say I accomplished
Yeah.
a thing today? And so when you were in the engineering world, there was more accomplishment there.
Yep.
How so?
So, you start working on a mold design and you've got, a deadline for your prelim and you've got a
Yeah.
deadline for the final mold design and you're, getting a date on the calendar right away for your customer to go over it. And so it felt like you hit those check marks and those check boxes to get through it. And you all had, it was quoted, you had a week or 2 or 3 for design.
Sure.
So you kind of laid out right from the get-go, hey, I need to have, prelims done by this time. I need to have my final design done by this time. And so it just felt like you got everything initially. You made a process and you could check it off, even though it was all a digital, work. I'm not providing you with a physical, tool I built. I'm providing you with a design, but it still felt like I was, getting something done physically.
Yeah. How is it being one of the younger people probably in a lot of the shops that you go to? Or do you feel like you are?
So I definitely feel like I'm of the younger crowd. I think in sales, especially, I am younger. But in some ways it's great. In some ways it's not. I think it's really great because I'm unique and stand out. And I can kind of pave the way for this generation, maybe, say, give us a good name.
Sure.
And a good reputation and what we're about. And as time has gone on, I think that sales might look a lot different when people get to my generation. For instance, I'm not a huge fan of golf.
Yeah, we talked about that.
But everybody else likes golf, so maybe we do different outings.
Do you like to hunt?
I do here and there. I mean, I did years ago, but I don't anymore.
I was going to say that seems to be the thing more in this space, in this industrial space, this manufacturing space is hunting. I know Dougie was just on a trip hunting, I think 2 trips hunting, but that's not my thing because it's too cold outside. I'm not a winter outside person. Yeah. I like indoors for the winter.
Well, I mean, you can hunt all over the United States.
Yeah,
round,
you can.
So, it can get bigger. But
yeah.
So I don't know, the sales thing for this generation. And then some of the other things too is being young. Maybe I think I have to prove that I know things or understand things or can get somewhere with things at times because I definitely have a lot to learn. And being young, I don't have 20 years of experience that somebody can be like, she knows it all, but I'm willing to learn. So
do you find, I've got to be careful how I say this. Do you feel like you have to face that more because you are also a female of trying to prove that you know what you're talking about when you're on these sales calls?
At times, yes. But I think, again, being like maybe the first or the forerunner of, this kind of a role, I think it gives me a competitive advantage too, because I'm memorable. I mean, 5 people knock on your door a day and they're all about the same aged gentleman. And some younger girl who's enthusiastic and wants to learn they might remember you a little more. But yeah, I definitely get questions here and there. Like, have you, completed your journeyman card? Like, what did that entail? I provide a little more clarity, which at times is nice because then it's a nice thing I can talk about conversation wise. But yeah. So it is and isn't.
I can see it as a positive and a negative, like we were talking about before too, right? Like I think you do offer something that's different than what's typically coming to sell molds to people door to door. And I think that's a benefit, but I think that there is also the realization that the shop is still predominantly men. That's changing. I think it's changing in a good way.
Yeah.
And you and I were talking a little bit at lunch about that difference between hiring men and hiring women and where women can add benefits and additional skill sets.
Yeah. I also think communication too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times it just tends to be that way, that women communicate or can be, super organized or really good communication. I mean, a lot of times you go into a business and the front desk person, kind of the first face of the business is a woman. So
Yes.
that works out sometimes. They're just more personable. It just tends to trend that way. So I think that different skill sets like that maybe can aid in the manufacturing space. I know years ago, shops used to be kind of like dirty and didn't have the best lighting. And nowadays we've got amazing lighting. It's
Right.
super clean. And I mean, couldn't see a better place for organization and stuff. So
There's been a significant amount of changes. And I think that's one of the things that people need to realize is it's not that dark, dirty, dingy dungeon of a facility anymore.
yeah.
And I think that's one of those things where parents need to understand that also, right? When they're trying to help their kids make a decision between, are they going to go to college? Are they going to go to work? What is this going to look like for their lives for their next 20, 30, 40 plus years? All those things need to come into question. What are your thoughts?
So I think that, so I took a technical college route, and
Okay.
I think that a lot of times it's almost talked about as like the back burner, like, oh, if school doesn't work out for you, you can always go to a technical college. And I think that if people really understood the apprenticeship program, all the skills you learn being an apprentice and doing that route or technical college. A large reason I went to technical college was I was just terrified of debt. I didn't
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a big college fund, and I didn't have a big plan like that, and I really wanted to move out and buy a house, and I didn't want to get stuck in an apartment forever with college loans. I grew up on a farm. I want space. So I really liked the technical college route. And in getting my feet into the technical college, later found Mantz and the apprenticeship. And then a lot of my schooling was paid for, which
Yep.
was even better because then I did more. I got a mold design certificate. I got my associate's degree. I finished the 5-year apprenticeship. So it's like I couldn't have done all of that and done the 4-year college, or done that and been where I was today if I did a 4-year route personally. So I just think that it's a great opportunity and a great thing that people can understand differently. And also like how big of a career you can get out of going that route.
Yeah.
Like pay wise and skill set wise, like you can get such a competitive job career that you could, candidates with a 4-year degree could be applying for the same thing.
Yep.
So,
and I think there's something to be said for when you go into work, you're actually furthering your education also, right? We talked to Taylor about it at the SPE, or not the SPE, from Taylor from SPE. She's at CMD. That's a lot of letters. But we talked to her, here's some more, at PT Expo. And she just graduated out of high school, and now she's working at CMD. And we're doing a Track the Apprentice with Taylor so that you can see her journey of what it looks like to go from student to employee and become a mold maker, which is really, really great. And Taylor was mentioning too that she learned things in high school in the classes, but she had to relearn them all when she was actually working. So the things that you're learning in school, you're learning how to use a software maybe, right? But you're not learning how to be a mold designer or a mold builder or an engineer. You're getting a title, right? You graduated as an engineer, but you're not an engineer yet. Would you agree?
So right now, to kind of touch on that note,
Yeah.
Mantz is doing this really cool, I'm going to call it a program, but
Okay.
it's the first time we've done this. So we're working with the high school local to us, and we are doing a mold build, like partnering with them.
Okay.
So like you were saying, in school, they're learning, about machining, but to further that knowledge in industry, we'd ask, hey, do you know anything about machining? Yeah, I know what a mill is. I know what a CNC is. Like, they don't understand a roughing technique versus a finishing technique.
Sure.
They don't understand the steps. They don't understand how people come together and have a design review meeting, or, run the design through all the different steps of manufacture to get the final product. So right now, once a week about, an entire engineering class at Hartford comes to visit us, and we've been walking through a like joint tool design,
Yeah.
where we helped with the design, and it makes these lighted sign bases for something they'll later machine the sign that goes into it. So each week we're like showing them where we're at with the design, where we're at with the build. A couple students came over and got a hands-on approach at fitting the tool, actually,
Okay.
not the whole class, but a couple. And then in return too, maybe midweek or some weeks, we send some of our shop personnel over to Hartford and help them set up some plates and stuff. So they're doing like, they're machining like the ejector plate, the ejector retainer plate, the rails, some of the simpler stuff, and some of the more high tolerance like fits and functions of like slides or parting lines we're doing with us in like the 5-axis, showing
Sure.
the difference between a 5-axis. So it's really getting that like interaction and hands-on approach of like what it is like in the industry versus how school teaches it to you. And I think a lot of them already have their eyes opened from it being like, oh, this is just a project, to wow, this one project is only like a tenth of the machining at a business with this
Sure.
kind of an opportunity. So
I know I went to Wakanda High School here, had like a pathways open house kind of a thing where they walked people through their engineering department and their manufacturing departments and everything like that. And I spent a long time talking with the teachers. And I think what's hard is like, here, the teacher that's teaching that class is doing an amazing job. He's trying his hardest, but he's a football coach, right?
oh,
And he hasn't been a manufacturer. He hasn't built things. He just has a passion for the industry and finding something for kids that maybe don't see themselves going to college. And that's where a lot of the focus in high school seems to be, is like, you need to go to college. You need to go to college. You need to go to college. And I went, so I'm not poo-pooing college. I think that there's a place for it. And I think that if it makes sense for you, you should go. But even the high school teachers, I think part of the problem where they need us to step in as manufacturers is to tell them what the students need to know, because they don't know. They don't know what goes into mold building. Like, that teacher can't follow every possible manufacturing job across the United States.
mm-hmm.
And so we have to be willing to share with the schools like you guys are and say, this is what we would need in employees coming out of high school. How do we help develop those skills now so that they have them in the future?
Yeah.
We had a conversation. There was a kid, they did a laser cutting thing. It was really, really cool. And it was a little archaic, the system they had. They had to program everything instead of just like dropping in a DXF file and saying, go. So it came out and the teacher was showing me, and I said, now what would be really cool is if you polish that whole surface to like a diamond finish. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, because now you've got like raw steel. But what if you could actually make that like a mirror finish?
Yeah.
Now that's something that our business could use, having that next generation of polisher come in and be ready to work. And he was like, we don't even know how to do this. So we started a conversation where maybe we can go in and teach a class or show them how to do that or what that looks like or explain the differences. But a lot of times they just don't know. And so it makes it difficult.
Yeah. And I mean, some of those roles too, like you say, like polishing, like, I mean, when the teachers run through like, oh, what do you want to do? A guidance counselor, maybe they don't, it's not that they don't want to share. They just don't know. Like,
Right.
Polishers are a job. It's a great job,
Right.
CNC, there's so many different roles in CNC. You can rough in CNC. You can be a 5-axis programmer. You can be a 5-axis operator. There's so many different like small pathways that go into each of these careers that I think a lot of students might be interested in had they know it existed. Like, I had no idea injection molds were a thing in high
Right.
school. So now and working in the industry, it's like everything around you is injection molded. Like, so many plastic components in the world are, derived from an injection mold. So
it's such a cool thing when you go to the store and you're like, oh, look, a Jiffy lid. We made that.
Yeah.
Or toothbrush container or whatever it is. You're like, we did that.
Yep.
Because you're right. You don't know, right? People don't know how things become. They just know that they get them.
I think it's a little bit of a curse too, because you go to the store and you look at, a bucket and you're like, they could have done this better. You
Yes.
Start looking for the name and exploring that way. So yeah, I think you get deep into it, but
you look for the name and then you think, I got to call them and tell them, like, listen, I was at Home Depot. I saw your bucket. There's a couple things that you could do to make this better.
You're speaking the truth here. Another thing too with women, I mean, everyone else talks about us as like these internet sleuths, we can find everything out. I think this is an advantage for me in sales. I find things in the real world and I'm like, here I am on Google. Let me see what I can find out about it.
You do a little bit of deep dive, do you?
Yep. I definitely get into it.
Yeah. A little background spying. Has it worked out?
Sometimes, I find some really interesting leads that aren't your typical, like, oh, I heard your name from so-and-so, or
what was the best one?
I think the best, So I saw a commercial one time in the background. It was for a bank. And the
Okay.
background of the bank, they were talking about financing a new build, was a mold shop. And I'm
Oh,
like,
really?
I've never seen a mold shop on a commercial before, you know? So I Googled up the bank and I Googled up, you know, their commercials. And then I read through the comments until I could figure out what name they were doing a new project for and financing a, you know,
Yeah.
the building or whatever, and found the website and ended up cold calling them. And we, yeah, later did business with them. So that was kind of cool.
You're right. I don't know many men that would take all of those steps to get that done.
Yeah, it sounds crazy. I know.
No, it's not crazy. It's creative.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's
I like
what,
that better. I'll have to use that.
yeah,
Say
yeah,
positive,
yeah.
creative.
Yeah. Not crazy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we're all a little bit crazy, but I think that's just finding an opportunity and striking. I mean, it was right there in front of you. Why wouldn't you pursue that?
Yeah. I mean, I actually told my husband about it while I was like midway through looking into this idea, and he's like, "You've already gone this far. You'd be crazy not to just stop there."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. Okay, I'll finish this." So
It would have been unfortunate if you found out like it was just a set and
you could tell. I mean, who's gonna haul in all of those molds to do a
Yeah.
set like that? Like, I mean, you can't
especially
just
when
take a
nobody knows what it
picture.
looks like
Yup,
anyways.
yup. Yeah. So I thought it
Except
was pretty
mold
solid.
makers would know, right? If they tried to do that in a set, no mold maker would ever use
No.
that bank ever.
No.
Because mold makers are very generous. They're very caring. They want you to learn, but they also want to test you.
I can get on board with that. And two, how many movie sets have you ever seen with an injection mold shop? I mean,
No. And they usually do it way wrong. Like my brother used to work on Chicago PD, the TV show.
okay.
He was a location scout, and we were watching the show. My wife and I were watching the show, and they were breaking up a counterfeit ring. And we were looking at the plates, and Vanessa would agree. The plates were all forward. So when you do printing, the printing has to be backwards, right? So that
Okay.
when it shows up right on the actual money. But all the plates that they made for the counterfeit money were forward so that you could see what it was, because you're just watching TV. You don't know any better.
Uh-huh.
And I called my brother and I was like, dude, that would have been the worst counterfeit money ever. It was all backwards. And he was like, stop watching the show. Just stop paying attention. It's a stupid TV show. You're putting way too much into it.
Yeah.
But it's that attention to detail.
Mhm.
Like, how many people even watch the commercial
True.
and didn't
I mean,
look at their phone in the meantime?
yes, that. And I mean, it was a bank commercial. So
Yeah.
I don't know. No one's really going to look that back up, I guess. I mean, unless you're looking for a bank with financing, they're not going to be like, oh, they do injection molds.
But it worked.
Yeah. So that, I mean, that would be an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah. That is definitely the best one. That's the best one I've heard, where you just find an idea and run with it. That's good. So how do you think, what do we got to do to get the youth more involved?
So
Let's go back to that.
okay, so kind of like my comment on golf before.
Yeah.
So maybe outings and like interaction and stuff is going to look different when more people my age become the customers or the salesmen, or you know how that works out. Because right now I interface with people in a lot different age group than me, which is fine. You know, I like talking about things that they are interested in, but it's definitely a different demographic. You know, they might watch the news and I go on my phone and check a
Sure.
few things, you know. So I think maybe like outings too, like they might be not golf outings anymore. Maybe we all get together and do Top Golf, or maybe we get together and do like an axe strength. You know, like there's so many different things. So I think just the future of like getting more people involved is going to be like a shift in the cultural norm, let's call it. Like things are just going to look a little different. And I think once people see that, hey, you know, that trade doesn't just do, I'm using the golf outing thing. Not that there's a lot of people that don't like golf.
Here's what I know.
age.
She probably won't be at our golf outing. Or if she is, she'll drive around and drink.
Maybe drive, not drink. Doesn't end well with golf carts. But
Okay. Well, sounds like history there.
No.
Pass.
No, yeah. So I don't know. I think just like different interactions with them is just going to give it a different feel. Like I was saying before, the shop, like space has changed.
Yeah.
You know, people, when that changed, people gave it a different like look and a second thought. You know, like my parents, I'm sure, were a little nervous when I'm like, I'm going to go be a welder. And, you know, they've never seen this place. I come home, I'm like, yeah, I got a job here. Like, of course they're a little worried. You know, my mom told me that she was worried I was going to say something to the wrong person and get shoved in a locker. So, I mean,
At work or at school?
school and work.
Okay.
Slackers both. But, you
Yeah.
know, so she was just afraid of the whole demographic. And I think that once that changes, and it has for a most part, I think people are going to be like younger people are just going to be more into it. Plus, the other thing is flexibility.
Mhm.
So youth of today want like freedom to take time off, to go here. And that definitely throws a wrench in the plans, I think, with old school tool and die shops. I'm sure you'll know we're big on overtime. You
Yep.
know, a lot of people love to work, 50, 60 hours a week.
Yep.
That's normal for them, right? 50 is a normal week, a light week. So I think that in our trade specifically, there's a ton of flexibility if people are willing to put in the work and time and take advantage of it.
Sure.
So if, I know that when I worked on the floor, there was a group of guys that loved snowmobiling, right?
Yeah.
They had off, not every other weekend, but close to it. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they were up snowmobiling because they worked their hours earlier in the week and they got that flexibility. So I think normalizing the benefits of this trade too, young people are really going to be enticed to do that because a normal 9 to 5 doesn't give the freedom that a lot of people like of, working remote. And you can't work remote for a tool shop, but this is almost like the next best thing, right?
Sure.
You kind of pick your schedule. There's not a punch clock you follow. You're not, lunch at a certain time, buzzer driven. Like it's a lot more freedom. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. And those are all things that have changed. I mean, in the last 20 years, I remember working here in high school and it was a buzzer. It was a buzzer to start. It was a buzzer for break time. It was a buzzer for lunchtime. And a buzzer when it was time to go home.
Wow.
And those were the hours. There was no flexibility there. You came in at 7 and you worked till 5. That was it. That was your day. There were no questions. You knew what hours you were going to work. And I think as things have changed, we have to realize that, people have kids and they actually want to go to their kids' events and see them run track or basketball or football or baseball, whatever it is, right? They want to be involved with their families. And I think that should be encouraged. That's a good thing. It's a good thing to have a quality work-life balance. I suck at it, but for other people, it's great, I'm sure.
No, I agree. Like I said, that's kind of like a big movement, I feel like now too. People want to talk about that. Just when I look through job ads, I like to look through and see who's busy, who's hiring, who's busy. A lot of times that's something big in the job ads that people, like to advertise. Hey, we have a great, work-life balance here. There's freedom. There's all sorts of different working options. Just the other day I talked to somebody who got a job as like an operations manager kind of thing for a place in Florida, and he lives in Wisconsin, and he's working completely remote. And I had no idea you could even do that job remote.
How do you manage an entire operation from
I don't know.
Wisconsin?
I'm curious to touch base with him in a few months and figure out how that looks. But just that too, like things are so different now.
And why wouldn't you want to move to Florida?
I asked the same thing. I'm like, Wisconsin
that
weather.
Sounds backwards. Like you should like work in Florida, live in Florida and work in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Remote the opposite.
Yeah. That's the way I would rather do it. But that's just, again, winters.
You don't get 4 seasons then, though.
I'm okay with that. I don't like all 4 seasons. Shorts and sweatshirts, that's my favorite.
Yeah. I like all 4 seasons. It's nice. But yeah.
Yeah. That's not my thing. But it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be at all. One of the things that we were talking about too is, when in regards to sales and strategies and whatever, is how to utilize social media.
Yeah. So I really like the example that you've laid out for social media in this trade. That's how I saw the podcast. That's how I thought to make an introduction at the PT Expo. But I definitely think that, we've got to get creative.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to do a lot more social media with Mantz Automation, and I think that it's trending positive. I think more people within the company are starting to think it's a good idea. It could benefit us. Drawing that exact correlation between social media and sales is hard, but I almost don't think it's there for that reason. It's there so like people get to know you, people see your name, people can see your services, they can see, how you're impacting the community, because it's great to like do this program with Hartford High School, but it's even better to share it. And then maybe another company sees it and can do something similar with their local high school. And then it just grows that, helpfulness and just some ideas that way. I also think that in a sense, it's like competition can be good.
Sure.
And I think that talking about, some new equipment that Mantz got, or new, things we're trying out, or some awesome builds we've done, it almost like amps up the friendly competition and makes you want to better yourselves, and everyone else like working with in the company and group want to better themselves too. So sharing more of just what you're up to can, help with that too. Just motivating people, sharing that, I think. So
I think social media is one of those things where you're silly not to do it. I mean, it's free, right?
Yeah.
You don't even have to do paid advertising. We never do paid advertising. We used to. It didn't seem like it worked. We don't do pay-per-click on the website. Everything is just organic. And when people say, what's the ROI on marketing or social media or spending the time doing that? I don't think you could put a tangible number to it, but let's just look at the example that you gave, right? You saw the stuff that we put on social media. You enjoyed it. Some part of it caught your eye.
Yeah.
So you knew the company, right? You knew the brand.
Yep.
Which then led you to come up and say hello at PT Expo,
Mm-hmm.
where if we weren't at PT Expo, the conversation wouldn't have happened. So when people say, why do I go to trade shows? Do they still work? A conversation was had
Yep.
that led to an interaction. We already do some work with Mantz. That's fine. That's not what it's always about. It's about furthering the relationship between companies and brands and people. And so now you're on the podcast and now you get to talk about it. And so when people say, does it work? Well, in 2 steps, it works, right? And if you're being authentic with who you are, now you already know who I am.
Yep.
So like we talked a little bit at PT Expo. You came by today. We'll do a tour later. We had lunch. It was a great conversation.
Yep.
Because you already know what you have an idea what you're going to get from me
Mm-hmm.
coming off the conversation. And I think so if you're willing to put stuff out there, it's going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah. I also too want to mention, like, some people have a fear of things maybe like being portrayed the wrong way, or
Sure.
viewed by, a different demographic, or, offending, I guess I want to say, somebody. But like you were saying, if you're just authentic, you're going to gather the crowd that you're probably going to work best with, and really be able to like grow and prosper those relationships.
Yeah.
And get somewhere with. So, eliminating that fear is probably a really good thing.
I can see how it's a real fear, right? We live in a cancel culture society where if you say the wrong thing, you're done. There's no explanation. Nobody wants to give you a chance. They don't ask you, what did you mean by that? You're just done, and they don't want to work with you. And I think my opinion on it is okay, right? Like there's plenty of people to work with. These are the foundational principles on who we are. I feel like if we're living to our core values, then that's a good thing. And if people don't like us for our core values or what we believe in, then we probably shouldn't work together anyways. And that's okay. Vanessa's laughing over there. I don't know what's happening. Oh, he did? And you can't see it. No, I can't see it. Oh, boy. Richard says, and now Vanessa's handing me her phone. Agree 100%. Social media and in-person networking has been key to our success. I consider it staying relevant and keeping your name in front of potential and current customers. That's Richard Evans. Do you know Richard Evans from Reaction Plastics?
I do not.
Richard is awesome. He's one of our best friends. He is a mold designer. That's all he does. So if you guys ever need to outsource anything, he is the go-to that we tell everybody to go to. So really, really good guy.
Where are we at? What was I gonna say? I forgot.
Social media. We're talking about social media, being authentic.
I lost my train.
She lost her train of thought.
Sorry, it happens.
But no, it does. It does all the time. That's the joy of live. Yeah. But I think there's real strength in putting yourself out there. We were talking about the fear of saying something that maybe is wrong, or wrong to somebody, and it's going to catch their attention wrong, or they're not going to like what you do.
Yeah. And
I think that's okay. I think people in general need to be a little bit more thick-skinned. We need to be more like my friend Scott Phipps at UTM. We need to be the rhino, right? With a really thick skin, just run through it. Don't worry about all the little small stuff and just do life.
I think you can get a lot more personal growth and like a lot more accomplished that way too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're always worried about offending somebody or somebody offending you and everything's taken so personally. I think you just waste a lot of energy and time getting offended or worrying about offending somebody else. And I think, like you said, if you just live authentically and to yourself, you can get a lot happens for the better. And you also build a network around you of people that are like-minded, and you can really accomplish a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
there was a guy who walked this earth. He only spoke truth, offended people all the time, and died. And luckily for us, he rose again. But it's just the way life is. You're gonna upset people sometimes.
Yeah.
And as long as you're doing it unintentionally, I guess, and you're just speaking to who you are and what you think is real and what that is. I mean, live your life, right? I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life. I'm gonna live my life the way I want, the way I do. And if you disagree with me, you don't have to work with us.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to listen to the podcast. You don't have to do any of that. It's fine. I care because I like people. I like people liking me. I don't like when people just don't like me. I'm a people pleaser. I can't help it, but I'm not going to change who I am or what I believe just to make somebody happy.
I get that. Too, with social media, like you were kind of saying before, I think it's like a good way that you just kind of get your name out there.
Yeah.
You were saying. So it's just like a constant free source of like, hey, here we are. Hey, here we are. And I think that you can almost traffic so many more people and like interact with people a lot quicker than if you just did one phone call per person, every however long. I think if you put out some great content and got people involved in talking, kind of like you're doing with this podcast, people can interact and message in, comment in. And I think that that's a great source of just getting your name out there and reminding people we're here to help. So
I think an easy first step that people can take, like if people don't feel comfortable posting or putting pictures of themselves or videos or whatever, is just going on and commenting on other people's posts.
Yep.
And just starting a conversation with them. That looks like an interesting project. Asking questions about what happened in the video or the post or whatever that is, and just starting engagement. Mm-hmm. Then it's gonna snowball.
I think that like people, I know that my age, we were like, grew up and raised in this social media era. But I think as time's gone on, a lot more people, they're like one way or the other. They're either like really big content creator, we're going to put everything out there and just be transparent and share everything on the internet. And then there are people that are just like, I don't even want to comment. I just want to silently look at everything. Yeah. So those two different kinds of people too, like, don't be afraid to make a mistake. I mean, that's something too with youth of today. Like, try, just.
Do you feel like there's a lot of people that are afraid to make a mistake?
Yes. I mean, that's kind of the whole basis of like apprenticeships. Like, here, we want you to make it. You're probably going to make a mistake, but we're all watching and helping. So we're going to minimize the mistake, but you have to make the mistake to learn,
And we're ready for you to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And then how do you handle the mistake?
Mm-hmm.
We had conversations again. The industry has changed, right?
Yeah.
It used to be where you make a mistake and you get ridiculed and ripped apart and yelled at and screamed at. And that was part of it. Well, people don't learn that way.
No.
And so it's a softer version of mold making. I don't know if that is a good way of saying it, but it's more of a caring, empathetic, let's teach you than it is like, let's just break you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we definitely need people to have a little thicker skin.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a more empathetic way of doing it. And I mean, it's all like the apprenticeship program, like that's the whole, like in manufacturing now, that's kind of how people are mentored. You're kind of paired with somebody and they walk you through things and teach you things. And it's not like you said, you're getting broken in and, doing things. You're paying your dues in a sense, but it's almost guided.
Right.
So it's a lot more, I don't know, friendly feeling. And two, like that's something else you mentioned before, parents, like, the manufacturing world isn't scary that way. We're here to help, we're here to learn and grow together. So
I just think that there's such a benefit to knowing your kid and knowing yourself on and where they're going to succeed and at life, right? I know plenty of people that they tried going to college and it was a disaster, and they either finished or didn't finish, and they didn't end up doing what they went to school for. They just didn't know what they wanted to do after high school. And so they just said, I guess I'm going to go to college and spend all this money. And then they spend all this money and they come out and they want to do something. They don't know what that looks like, but now they feel entitled to make all this like a huge sum of money
Yeah.
because they spent all that time and money on college, where you don't know anything yet.
You do, but it's all like books.
Sure.
You know, like working in, it's kind of like I was talking in high school before. Like learning in school is so different than like running a project in industry. You know, you're interacting with people differently. You're got deadlines, you have different steps and stages. Things are a lot more in depth. Like you can't learn that in school. You have to do it every day to
Right.
understand it and just how things are ran. You know, in school you might come up with a whole project and you know, you got purchase parts off the internet. And the real world, like you're not just dragging and dropping into your design, you're sourcing things, you're calling, you're checking clearances and fits and times for shipping, and it's just a lot more to it, and you have to know how to juggle all of that and still put out a successful project. And I just don't think that
on a timeline.
Yeah, in the captive, you know, school environment, you get that skill.
Yeah, it's a whole different animal, and you know, I think there's plenty of things that you should go to college for.
Yeah.
But I think that there's more businesses now that are just looking for hungry people that want an opportunity to work and learn and grow.
And on-the-job training is like great.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, I learned it from Westminster. I love those guys, and the idea of hiring for character and then training for skill. You know, if you have curiosity, that's what they'll tell you. It's not mine. It's you know, Hillary and Ray and the whole crew out there. They look for curiosity. Do you want to learn how this happens? Do you want to learn more stuff? Do you want to be better at this? Are you asking the right questions? If so, we want you on our team. We'll teach you all the stuff, but you can't teach people how to be curious. You can't teach people how to have that gumption to show up every day and be able to tolerate failure from time to time and learn and grow and get better. Those are those skills that we need to start hiring for.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, I mean, it can unfortunately be in short demand at times just with the way that things are and the instant gratification.
Yeah.
Like today's world. And I know that I'm younger. I struggle with it myself. You know, you want everything to happen now, and that's just not the reality of it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times it's not. Sometimes it seems like it is. You know, you have customers that want it to be now sometimes. But that's a whole different conversation that we've talked about with, you know, having to break bad news to people sometimes and what that looks like. Because, again, what's realistic, what's not. And those are the things that we need to talk about and develop those problem-solving skills and all those things that actually matter and help people in their careers.
And I mean, breaking bad news to somebody too doesn't have to be bad news. You know, it can be positive. You know, we're taking a little bit longer on something, but it's going to be of better quality. You know, we're going to ensure you're going to get the best outcome that you could, you know, want out of this project.
Yeah,
so.
we could have hit the deadline, but we found some things that we didn't think you wanted us to leave out. We could have, but it's better that we're a day late.
Yeah.
So, I think all of those things are things that matter. And maybe those are some of the things that they should start teaching at school, the actual problem solving and communication skills and those soft skills to be able to do those things.
Yeah. Communication. I really agree with that because I remember, I mean, it was a while ago I was in school at this point, but I don't know. We were taught like communication, but it wasn't like what's like bad news. Like, is it really bad news? Like, are you going to have to talk to somebody and explain something that might not be the best? Yes. Like, we never were really coached on how that goes, how to make it a positive, like that it's acceptable, that it's going to happen, you know, that kind of thing. But just more background training on handling reactions and interfaces and that kind of thing, I think would be beneficial. But again, you can't really teach it as much as they want to teach it. You have to, on the job training, you have to learn as you do it.
There's some skills that you can learn, but you have to live it. You can learn all the skills, you can hear all the stuff, but if you're not willing to put it in practice, it's just in one ear and out the other. Actually, at the AMBA conference, we're going to be participating in a communication leadership talk. So that'll be really exciting. I'm excited about that. It's communication skills and delegation skills, and there was one other part. We just finalized some stuff today. So come to the AMBA conference and learn all about it. It would be great. All right, we're getting close to the end here. So if you are still listening, if you have any prayer requests, go ahead and put those in the chat and we will get to them. That's another benefit of the live show. Nobody ever takes advantage of it, but if you want to, it's right there. Okay, we're gonna ask a couple quick questions. What do you consider yourself an expert at?
I don't know.
Cleaning cattle.
I was going to say, I think I'm an expert at cleaning. I like cleaning things. I like organizing. So we'll call it organization. I'm an organizational expert. I love organizing things, whether it's digital, whether it's in person. I like it.
You got hives when you walked into my office, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
You just thought, I want to clean this.
It would be fun. Yes. Yeah.
Next time. Might make you crazy. What is the main thing that influences your decisions?
I don't know how I feel about it, if I'm going to be okay with it. Like, I just want to be true to myself. So if I'm making a decision, I don't want to make it based on what somebody told me or what somebody else tells me is right. I just make it based on like authentically what I think is right. You know, if this is going to be the best option for the company or the best option for personal growth or best option for this person. Like, I just try to take into effect everything and stay true to myself, you know?
Cool. What is the main quality you think makes a great parent?
I don't know. I'm not a parent. I don't know, that they don't just push their views on their child. They maybe help them find what they're passionate about.
Okay.
So they're exploring that kind of thing. Understanding, maybe. However you'd put that.
Yeah. Well, listening, right?
Yeah.
Back to communication, being understanding of having empathy for current situations and
like the effort. Like, say I really don't like sports. If my kid's into sports, like, I got to make an effort to go to like sports and do sports with them, because even though I'm not into it, I just, they're passionate about it, helping them explore their passions, even if they're not their own.
Yeah.
So that, I think, is important.
Yeah, definitely. What upcoming life event are you most excited about?
I don't know. Maybe my husband's listening. I want another dog.
How many do you have?
We have one.
Okay, what kind?
A Dalmatian.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd like to get a Doberman someday. So that would be nice. Or buying a larger house. I mean, we look for houses, but we haven't found anything yet. So moving and getting a Doberman in a larger house, just with room outside, more of a yard and a garage, because I think we fight over garage space right now, and I want a garage and he wants a garage, kind of thing.
Oh, so you need two separate garages.
We can have one big one. I'm not picky, but more garage space.
All right.
Yeah.
I wish we could have more garage space. It would piss my neighbors off because I would be encroaching on their property.
Oh.
But we have it's supposed to be a 2-car garage, but I don't know what car they were using when they determined 2-car garage. If you were a boss of many, would you want them to fear you or love you?
I think a little of both. I think.
Okay.
I want people to value my opinions on things, but I also want them to have the drive to want to, work hard. So a little bit of fear, to impress me, maybe, I guess, or better themselves, which would make me happy that they're working towards their goals or company goals or however that would be. So I think a little of both. If that's an answer, I can.
Yeah, I think fear is not like fear of the boogeyman, is what I think. I think fear more of like respect, right? Like you are afraid of making your parents upset, not because they're going to beat you, but you don't want to disappoint your parents because you love them.
Yep. Like they want to be a little competitive or do better for themselves, or, just a better.
Chat lit up, but it's not showing up in the chat session. Oh boy, what does that mean? We got a lot of people that are chatting stuff. You need your phone? Oh, was it on the Steve Hack says, am I supposed to be working on listening to the podcast? Listen, on our podcast. Yes. I mean, you can do both. You're a very talented guy. I have all the confidence in the world with you that you can have this on in the background and still do the things that you need to do. I mean, come on now, Steve. I know you're sitting downstairs. You got a bourbon in one hand. You got the podcast on, your feet up on the desk, not wearing a red shirt, and making phone calls and emails. So, I think all of those things. Yes, you can do both. I'm glad you're watching and listening. Okay. Anything else that you want to cover?
No, I think that's it. Other than U.S. built tooling, is great these days. Reshoring, and Mantz does offer an offshore management program
What does that look like?
So we would work with you and go through your tool build with our engineers like we would domestically, but it's sourced offshore. And then when it is brought to stateside, we double check everything, resample everything, and give it a guarantee that it would be the same quality of our domestic tooling, but with the offshore price that helps, your team maybe
Sure.
bring some projects to life if they don't have a large budget. But otherwise, reshoring is kind of a hot topic nowadays, and I think it's great, for our economy and bringing all that work to the United States, USA made, kind of like you were touching on before.
It's necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary. I know too many shops that are still looking for work to be sending stuff overseas. That's just my opinion. I know people are doing it because they're trying to cut costs or they're trying to do whatever. But I look at it and I say, if you're here and you're trying to offshore stuff to get made there to bring back here so you can make stuff,
let's just do it here.
Why wouldn't somebody just skip you and go overseas for that too? I mean, we all have to do this thing together, this thing called industry. We have to be in it together. And the more things change to a U.S. fed economy, the better off it is going to be for everybody. And do we need more people to be involved? Yes. Do we need more kids to get involved? Yes. Do we have all the mold makers we currently need? Probably not. I mean, if we're honest, right? Probably not. But I do know plenty of shops that don't have work. And, I think they would just love an opportunity to be able to quote that work and do it and be able to get it done and do it here. Do it because there's going to be problems otherwise.
Yeah.
There may be problems otherwise. I don't want to make a total generalization. That was wrong of me. Well, I apologize.
I think it just helps the world go round. I mean, when you're giving work to your neighbor, call it, right?
Yes.
Another company, you'd like to see they're prospering too. And, that's always great.
Yeah. And, we do that all. If we're busy with something, we have companies that we outsource to. You guys outsource things. Everybody outsources certain projects because that's what we got to do. You got to pass the baton and help each other out. And then when you're slow, people will reciprocate and help you out so that everybody can continue to have success. That's the way that we got to do this thing.
Yeah. I mean, too, with outsourcing, it can be so valuable. If you're, like you were saying before, you guys kind of do everything that mold makers don't have time for.
Yeah.
That's I think how you put it. I mean, outsourcing certain aspects of mold refurbishments to a place like mine, honestly, is beneficial for places like Mantz. It's helpful and get better quality. Speed wise, we can return a project much sooner to a customer. You're getting business. We're getting business.
Works for everybody.
Yep.
It works for everybody.
One hand washes the other.
Rebecca, any prayer requests that you get a Doberman? Steve came back and said, I'm sitting here petting my Doberman. So.
Oh man.
See what he does there?
Wow.
That's the kind of guy he is.
I would like one, and I want its ears to be done. I don't want one with the, just their ears are born down, and their breed standard is to have them docked and have them posted. I do want to do the whole posting thing.
You do?
I just think they look so much more regal and aggressive, and I don't know.
Yeah.
They're a great breed. Just
don't like their ears.
No, I do, but I think it's beneficial for them too, because I think the reason they started posting them years ago was because they get ear infections and stuff. Oh. So it's better for them. I mean, it's kind of like tails. They dock their tails because otherwise they smack them on things and they break open.
Don't all dogs do that?
No.
Really? I thought all dogs wag their tails and hit things, and I know I've been hit by a bunch of dog tails.
I mean, there's plenty of dogs that have really, Doberman's another one. All of their tails get docked when they're young because they're just so long. They break their tails too, and then it causes them pain throughout their life. So, docked tails. Sheep, they get their tails docked at birth. There's lots of things to do.
I've learned more things about animals in this hour than I thought I would. I'm glad they don't do that with people necessarily. You're born and they're like, we don't like your ears. We're just gonna cut your ears off.
Crop them, yeah.
Just because we think when you get older, you're going to have big ears and that's going to be weird for you. And so we're just going to cut your ears off. I don't know. I don't have dogs. I can't weigh in on it.
I mean, they do have helmets now for babies, but I think that's more of a birth thing. It's necessary. I don't know a ton about it, but I see that more often now. I feel like that it just helps with development. So a lot of young babies wear a helmet thing for a year.
Yeah.
So
that's all good. All right, I'm going to pray for us real quick, and then we'll get out of here. I'll give you a tour, and we'll have the whole 9 yards. So, Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to talk with Rebecca and talk with everybody online and virtually. We just thank you for this opportunity to connect and communicate and build relationships. And we just ask that you would watch over us, that you would continue to provide for us, that you would keep us safe, and that we would be able to release everything to you. I know that you're in control, and not try and fight for control in our own lives like we like to do. And so we just give it all to you, and we pray that you would receive glory from this and other conversations. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Rebecca, thank you for driving out from Mantz. A whole, what is it, hour and change, you said?
Hour and like 45 minutes.
Yeah, not too bad.
No, not bad at all. I mean, I do more drives on a daily with sales than
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity and just trying this new experience. So
Did you enjoy it?
yeah, I did. Definitely was a little nervous, but after doing this, I think it's a great opportunity, and I hope more people take you up on it and do the podcast with you, because I think it's a great way to just get to know people and share things about the industry.
It's a fun way to have conversations. So I appreciate you coming out. I appreciate you guys coming over during PT Expo and saying hello and really kickstarting the conversation. So thanks for your commitment to doing that, and for the way we got to have a good conversation at lunch. And I think we can do a part 2 of this at some point down the line, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll bring stuff to Mantz. We'll do it on location at Mantz.
Oh, that would actually be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in that.
Okay, so we'll do part 2 at Mantz. In the meantime, see everybody at the AMBA conference. It is in May. It's coming up real quick. So register for that. I know they're running out of hotel space. It is a great event. It's not about selling to people. It's about growing yourselves and your team and learning from the people who have found great success and are doing it together. So sign up for that. And other than that, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Take care and God bless.